And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
In my office, where I work and get my videos ready, I have many things, but I love this set of shelves that I have here. And in here I have things that I use, my dice bags and rubber bands, but most of these are full of dice. I have a big drawer here full of 6-sided dice of all shapes and sizes and different colors. And then I have a thing here with 20s and 12-sided dice. And I have a drawer here full of 10-sided and 8-sided dice. And then I have a drawer here full of odd dice, 6-sided dice that have something different on the side, or pictures, and then 100-sided dice. But in the top drawer, I keep my favorite dice. Here I have dice that are just different or unusual. Maybe they're a weird shape. Maybe they are special dice that have a special symbol on one of them, like a dice tower die or something like that. But in this drawer, I keep these dice here. Iron die, metal dice that I have. These are actually really heavy metal. So let's take a look at these. There's actually a game that involves these. Iron dice you can buy them in a set like this. Basically, you pick a color. This is a basic set, so this is the white color. When you open a set up, it will look like this. Here's the purple and the red sets, and you have space to put extra dice, because you can buy extra dice in small expansion packs where you don't really know what you're getting. You just get some dice, and the dice will be of various colors. There's different colors involved in the game. These 10-sided dice, I'm not sure exactly what they're for yet. That's for something in the future. This one here looks like it's a die that Sauron would use for his games, but the dice are different shapes. Now, let's take a look at these dice. In a basic set, you get 9 dice, and when you play the game, you're going to use 9 dice. Now, you don't have to use the 9 starting dice, but there are 9 different dice. You have these 3, which are life dice. Okay, the life dice, the swarm, the fortress, and regeneration. You can tell what they are because they have numbers on them. By the way, these are all 6-sided dice, and they all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on their sides. Basically, the thing that's different is the shapes. And then you have these ones here with triangles. These are attack dice. You have smasher, assault, and ballistic. And then you have these ones here which kind of look like amoebas, and those are your defense dice, the nullifier, barrier, and power up. Now what you're going to be doing is each player sets before them one of these papers like this, and this is going to show your attack, your defense, limbo, the abyss. Limbo is where dice go when you use them, but you'll get them back. The abyss is where dice go to die. Life is where you put your life dice, and attack and defense is where you put your attack and defense dice. Now, the way the game works, essentially, is each turn of the game, you're going to pick some of your dice. You can pick as many as you want to roll. Okay, you have to pick at least 1 life die, because if you run out of life dice, you've lost the game. And when you roll life dice, they're going to be put here to show how much life you have. The dice that you don't use, you'll be saving back and keeping them. Think of it as keeping like a spell in hand. When you don't roll a dice for its number, attack dice will be used to attack, defense dice are used to defend, and life dice keep you alive. So you put the numbers out, but when you don't use it, you'll be able to use its special ability, in essence. So after the dice are put out, okay, my attack's bigger, I'm going to win the battle, you're going to lose some life points. Well, I might say, well, no, I kept back a smasher, and I'm going to roll this smasher and put in skirmish, and if I roll higher than one of your numbers, I'm going to destroy that die. So I'm going to destroy one of your attack dice, or I'm going to destroy another die. And then maybe a nullifier, someone will say, no, before you do that, I'm going to put a nullifier there. I'm going to nullify your attack die before you play it. And so if you look here on the side of the sheet, it tells you what each of the dice do. Like, see the barrier there? Targets a defense die in play, and you can subtract its roll. Down at the bottom, the regeneration, you can pick any one of your dice in limbo, and you can bring that die back into play. When you use these dice, that's where they go. Regeneration lets you use them again. And so that's essentially the game. Yes, I know that sounds not too complete, but the rules for this game weren't written very well. But that is essentially, after looking at them and going over them and playing the game for quite a long time, that's what I've gotten. And so you're going to go back and forth till your opponent runs out of life dice, in which case they win. So you roll dice, keep some back, use those for their special abilities once the round's over, and then you start again and keep going. Now, on this side of the sheet, there is a color chart because there are special abilities based on color. For example, you can see here that the orange dice get +1 to an allied attack die and +1 to an allied life die. Whenever you roll a 1 on one of these dice, you can use its special ability to help an allied die. Allied dice, each color has other colors that are allied to it and colors that are hostile to it. Hostile dice don't really work well against one another, but allied dice, you can see here that purple is allied with red and blue. And of course, that makes sense because red and blue make purple. Purple is hostile to orange and green, and purple is neutral towards yellow. So each color has 2 allies, 2 hostiles, and 1 neutral, except for white and black. They're neutral to everything but hostile to one another. And each of them has special powers. You can see blue is good for defense, green is also helpful to defense and life, yellow is helpful to life, red is helpful to attack, etc. And each die also has 1 die that it's good for. For example, a black smasher is a really good die. So each die has, each of the 9 colors has a matching special die. Then there are rare dice, and if you can get these, now this will be hard to see in the video, but you can see this die here is a die, and if you notice, man, it's hard to see here, but I'll do my best. There's little gold spots inside this die, gold rings, and that means this is a special die that will unleash its power, color power, on a 1 or on a 2. So these dice are harder to get, but when you get them, they're better used in your deck, although you can only your group of dice. So you can mix any kind of color dice up you want. I can say I'm going to use these 5 and these. I mean, you need to have some life dice, but other than that, it doesn't really matter. You can pick any colors and any number. You could have 5 smashers and 3 life dice and 1 barrier. You know, that's up to you as long as you have at least 1 life die. And of course, I think coming in with just 1 life die would be kind of a risky thing anyway. So that's essentially the game. Of course, if I reviewed the dice on their own outside the game, they're nice dice. They're very heavy, though. You would not want to use these probably on a wooden table because you'd be worried about them messing it up. But they're very good dice. They're a little bit different from the initial iron die, which came out a few years ago. Instead of the initial iron die, the dice were all basically the color, and so that when you rolled those dice continuously, the colors would wear off the sides. Now the new dice have metal around the outside, which makes them just a little bit better in how they look. For example, it's very slight, but you can see here the difference between the old red die, which was very red, and the new one, which has more of a muted color, but is a sturdier die and will last longer. Well, anyway, that's iron die. This one's a tricky one. I love dice, I really do, and for dice purposes, these are awesome. I like them. They're great. They feel good. I will say that if you're using them outside the game, the life dice are the best because you can read the numbers. The reading the triangles and the dots and the other ones can be difficult. Some of the dice are harder to read than others. In the game itself, it doesn't matter, but if you're going to use them for other things. Still, though, they're really neat. But I got to mention the fact that these are really expensive. They're very expensive. I mean, sometimes at some stores, it basically comes out sometimes to $5 a die. You can get them cheaper than that, especially when you buy them in packs. But, whew, I know they're expensive to make. They're super good quality iron cast dice, but I don't know. The game itself is okay. Sure, there's lots of strategies in it, as you play by, although your strategies won't matter if you just can't roll what you need. You can decide to go for a life-heavy deck that just keeps regenerating and eventually waits out the other one, or a heavy attack deck where you come in and just try to wipe your opponent out and hope they don't get any hits on you because one hit will take you out. And so the idea of picking the colors and stuff is great. The problem is customizing your army is incredibly expensive. So you know, to play a decent game, you're going to just get the basic dice. Maybe buy 2 basic dice packs and mix them up, and whew, it's still expensive. So the game is decent. It's not great, but it's decent. I would get this simply for the dice. But then again, they're pricey. So that sounds awfully negative, and I don't mean it to be that way. This is a very specialized thing. It's for a specialized group of people. Some people get it because they love these dice and collect them. Other people get it because they like the idea of mixing dice in colors and sizes and shapes. I don't know. As for me, I'm keeping it just for the dice because the game didn't really ring any bells for me. But man, these are cool dice, but whew, expensive.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door!